we start with a short prayer. Father, we thank you, we give you praise. I am grateful for this opportunity and this platform to share my testimony and to share my story. My name is Jeanette. My colleagues call me Aya, and for my brothers and sisters from church, I'm Auntie J. My background is not Christian. I came from a home of many gods with small g. I'm going to share my story with you, and I pray that it sheds a bit more light on subjects we many of us find difficult to discuss, our mental health. So I grew up in Catholic boarding schools, and I went to university, and I was what they call a good girl. And I thought, as such, all good things should come to me. So I started looking around and doing what everybody was doing. And it left me disillusioned and back to square one. I got into relationships, and it left me with two beautiful daughters. Then I got married with this young, handsome man. We were both young. He was a teacher like me. We were planning to travel abroad, and we have had our first daughter, and we were not doing too bad. It all wasn't perfect, but I think we were getting through quite well. We were also very active in the Catholic Church, and we were leaders of one of the many movements in the church. And all the youth regarded us as role models. Until the day our house girl approached me and said, "Auntie, I've got something bothering me that I need to tell you." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Well, you're too kind for me to keep that away from you, but Uncle has asked me to come and manage her home, a new home, which he has just rented and furnished with brand new appliances and settees and everything." And I thought it was a prank. So she said, "If you don't believe me, I'll take you there. It's not far." And it was just 2 streets away. And she took me there, and I knew the place, but I wasn't sure it was anything. Maybe it was a surprise for me. I didn't know. So I also noticed that he has been hiding a set of keys under his clothes. So one day when he was having his siesta, I went there and I found that there were not the keys to our home. So I took them and I went and I copied the keys and I kept them. So another day, one morning when I knew he was in school, I went to the place. The key left me into the property, and I entered, and I found out that he was partially living there. He's had some clothes there. He was supposed to have been where he teaches in the suburb. He had a studio there, but the clothes that he wore the evening before were there, and the bathroom has been used. So I was like, my world was shattered, and I found female clothing. I didn't know exactly who it was, but obviously there have been a female involved. So I took some of the things that I found there, put them in a bag. I was in tears, and I went to the priest. And when I got there, by the look of him, it means that he knew it also almost telling me it was big time you find out. So he looked at me with a lot of compassion, gave me a big hug and said, look, I don't even know what to tell you. Not to say that at that time I was 5 months pregnant with our second child. So the priest took me to the yard and we sat on a bench. He held me by the hand and he had his Bible in the other hand, and we sat in the yard. And then he opened his Bible and he said, bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. That was Romans 12:14. The passage, he read a lot of things, but the sound of the first verse really shut me down. I said, what is he talking about? I did not hear any of the verses he said after, until he finished by, in doing this, you will heap burning coals of shame on their heads. Yes, that rang the bell because I didn't want to see any heads there anyway. But I was really, it was difficult to process that verse in the state I was in. So I went home and eventually my husband filed for divorce. He filed for divorce and he moved out to the flat that he has rented. And I was left in the house. No need to say that I was in shock. I was shattered. I was angry. I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. And on top of this, he has dragged me to court. And by the smiles on the face of the people in the corridors of the courtroom, for a pregnant woman coming to court for divorce, there was no two ways about it. It meant probably the pregnancy was the issue, that I had cheated. But how many of these people was I going to stop and describe the real situation to them? So these are the things that I was going through until the judge had mercy on me and suspended the procedures and said, until I gave birth, she did not want to see us again. And eventually, the divorce was pronounced. He married the woman who was also a sister in the church, much older than both of us. And I left my hometown. I moved to the city, to Abidjan, and I was depressed, constantly ruminating about my situation. I was angry and resentful, angry with the church, angry with God. I couldn't explain why that was happening to me. And I could even explain less why. It seems that he's gotten away with it. And one night, I threw my Bible across the room, and that's when I realized that I've hit rock bottom. That night, I experienced what they call psychosis, where you see things that are not really there. I could see my husband's on the walls, laughing sarcastically and mocking me. And on that night, if not for the grace of God, that sustained me, I would not be here. Neither would be my daughter and my unborn son. And I lived in that state for 2 years, that state of mind for 2 years. I couldn't sleep. I could barely eat. I could be eating my best meal or my favorite meal. And when the thought of everything that went on come in my mind, if I'd chewed anything, I would not be able to swallow. It was that bad. I could not cry either. People who know me, I'm very emotional. I could be watching a movie or listening to a story and be crying. But for 2 years, I did not cry. I've spent my time cleaning, sewing, making all sorts of, keeping myself busy, really, so that I don't have to be alone or to go in stillness where I could listen or I could be with myself. The only time I would sleep was out of exhaustion because I couldn't do it anymore. Then one day I finally met a pastor whom I've been dodging for a year or so. And I was so angry, he finally cornered me. And I asked him, what can your God do for me? What can your Jesus do for me? And he said, what do you want Jesus to do for you? And I said to him, I want to sleep. And he said, really? Do you mean you haven't been sleeping? And I said, no, I can't sleep. So I started telling him the reasons behind my lack of sleep and everything. And he said, well, if you ask Jesus the way you're asking me, he will hear you and he will do it. If you want to make it real, put a chair, invite Jesus to sit down and ask him the way you've asked me. I will not want to go into the details, it's quite a long process, but that night I cried, and that night I slept. I slept kneeling down by the side of my bed. When I woke up, it was the pain in my knees that woke me up, and I was able to carry on sleeping till the morning. And in the morning, that pastor came to check on me, and I was so happy when I told him that I had slept. He picked me up from the ground, turned me around, and sang hallelujah and said, well, now you have to forgive your husband. And I said, don't go there. Don't go there. How do I forgive somebody who has treated me the way he had? I could not. There was no way to. And he said to me, yet that is your only way out. And I told him, but I don't know how to. And he said, I would help you. And I said, okay, I will see how you will help me. He didn't live far from me, so every evening he saved 30 minutes for me to come and pray with him. And he brought out the same Roman 12, 14, 20. And I said, definitely there must be something there that God wants me to know. So he started praying. He said, we have to pray for your ex-husband. We have to say good things about him. And I said, when I mention his name, the only thing that comes into my mind is curses, bad things. I can't say his name. I can't link his name with anything good. Why should I be saying good things about him? And he said, well, if you can't say it, repeat after me. So I started repeating after him. And he would say, oh, God bless him, God keep him, God protect him, show him grace and favor, open doors of opportunity for him. And the first day we did that, I came home in tears. The pain was back, raw. I said, what am I doing? Why? Why am I in so much pain if this is what needs to be done? And the next day I asked the pastor, this is how I felt yesterday. That I was in so much pain, I couldn't sleep. And he said, it means it's working. If it didn't do anything to you, if it didn't mean anything to you, you wouldn't have felt anything. But for you to be saying it and to be feeling the pain, it means something is happening. Remember, when you have a boil full of pus, the only way you can heal is by squeezing that pus out. And that's what we are doing by the confessions that we are making. So I encourage you to carry on despite the pain. And we continued for weeks. I think it took us 2 months where I couldn't say any word. I was repeating after him like a child learning to read. And the pain was getting lesser and lesser and lesser until one day I was able to make my own sentence without having to repeat his. And that day he broke out in praise and said, that is it. We've done it. The Lord has done it. You are free. And indeed, I felt free. I felt free. But in the midst of these 2 years of pain, of depression, of anxiety, of anger, I had developed physical health problems. Not sleeping well, not eating well, not having peace. I had developed physical health problems. I've had experienced angina, stroke-like feelings in the night. I woke up with the whole side numb coming from the head, but the Lord kept me. None of it went beyond the night, and in the morning, I was fine. I was fine. So what my story is about is all the negative things, all the negative events and the feelings, the emotions that I went through made me experience what we can call mental health problems. And that's where the topic is. And there are 3 key words that I would like to define here. There are 3 key words when we talk about mental health. We talk about the mind. The mind is a part of us that makes us aware of the world around us and our experiences. It enables us to feel. It is the faculty of consciousness that we have, that we are, our intellect, and our ability to think and reason. So that's our mind. That's literally who we are. Now our thoughts. The thoughts are what we think with our mind. Our thoughts are the produce of our mind. And the third term is stress. Stress is a state of mental emotional strain, a tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. So you can see clearly that it is easy to be stressed. If you receive a red letter or a bill that is beyond your expectation, this causes strain because it's a demanding circumstance. It's a demand placed on you to pay for something that you probably can't afford. That's stress. So it's very easy to go through stress. Now, I'll come back to who we are, how we were created. We were created in the image of God, and our mind is a gift from God. And we know that every gift from God is good. So our mind, as it was created, is good. I would like us to go to 2 Timothy 1:6-7. He said, that is why I remind you to fan into flame the gracious gift of God. So it is a gift of God. The inner fire, the special endowment, the gift, which is in you through the laying of my hands, with those of the elders at your ordination. Not all of us have been ordained, but once we give our life to God, to Christ, I believe there is something, there is a mission there for us to carry out. If not at all, the mission at least to bring somebody to the kingdom, to be a role model, to be the salt of the earth, and to be the light of the earth. For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, of cowardice or fear, but he has given us a spirit of power and of love and of sound judgment, reasoning, and personal discipline, ability that result in calm, well-balanced, and mind and self-control. So our mind is a gift from God. If our mind is what produces the thoughts, now you can clearly link that being what gives us awareness of our surrounding, it is very easy to pick up anything. Indeed, in fact, there is so much that comes into our mind when we look around. You watch TV, and my grandson was telling me, I don't want to watch the virus. That's to say that he doesn't want to watch TV. So there are so many things that give you the potential. It's a reason for you to start thinking. So it is part of our daily functioning. As I said, the mind is good. God made it to be the activation room, the workshop of the gift he has given you. Because what you give attention to, what you think about, what you imagine, what you nurture in your mind, eventually is what happens. I focused on my hurt. I focused on my shame. I focused on my pain. And it grew. It grew to what? It grew to losing my mind, seeing things that were not there. What did he grow to? He grew into not having peace, not being able to sleep, not being able to enjoy life. And I started sinking slowly. I was lucky that I was not in this country where everything is treated by medication. I did not have access to medication. I went through my period of depression all by myself. I felt like I was in a box, a big box, But when I talk about box, if it was a coffin, it would be a square and upward one, not the laying like this. And then the opening will be on the top, and you can't reach it. You don't have anything within you, within that box, to push it open. That's how it felt, to be locked in depression. So what you give to your mind is what your mind works with. So there is an element of discipline as well. As we go about our business every day, as things happen around us, we can choose what to focus on. We can choose what to give our attention to. A sound mind has the capacity to generate positive thoughts. Our minds are powerful, and the power of our mind determines the power of our thoughts, because our thoughts influence our behavior, our attitudes, and the way we react to things. We receive a multitude of information which attract our attention, but as the Bible says, He has not given us a spirit of fear. He has not given us a spirit of cowardice where we can be battered by anything that comes in and we have to take it. It has not given us a spirit of people who don't know what to do. We have a character. That spirit is actually the character. Our character is of that of somebody who has discipline, who is able to decide what he wants to do. So we can decide and choose what to focus on. I have a good friend of mine. She's a nurse like me, and she practices every day. When we have a conversation, we will start talking about things. And then when it starts going a bit negative, she would say, let's not go there, Jerry. And that is so and I don't know if it's conscious, but it is how things should happen. The moment you realize that things are going the other way, then you have to revise your position and decide where you want to go. And in doing that, we go to Philippians 4:6-8. The Bible says, don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing. Be saturated in prayer throughout each day, offering your faith-filled request before God with overflowing gratitude. Tell Him every detail of your life. Then God's wonderful peace will transcend your understanding. It will make your answers known to you through Jesus Christ. So keep your thoughts continually fixed on all that is authentic and real, honorable and admirable, beautiful and respectful, pure and holy, merciful and kind, and fasten your thoughts on every glorious work of God, praising Him every day. The second part is what I want to focus on. So when your mind is bombarded by information that is attracting your attention, you have to decide which one you want to give your attention to. Is what you are giving your attention to honorable? Is it admirable? Is it beautiful? Is it respectful? Is it merciful or kind? If it's not, then you need to brush it aside and pass to something else. That is the way it's become, that like the checking criteria for our thoughts. When things are going on, something happened this morning. I ordered a bed and they called me for delivery, and I was working on this and they called me and said, do you know that because of the corona, we cannot bring the bed to your door? And I say, and so where are you going to leave the bed? So we're going to leave it downstairs. And I was vexed. And I said, what do you mean? You're going to leave the bed, a whole bed downstairs? How do you expect me to bring it in? You are the people who are doing the delivery. And the guy said, that's what it's going to be. And my reaction, my normal reaction, why do you bother? Take the bed back. And then I sat down and I thought, if they take the bed back, what have I gained? They've brought the bed all the way to this place. I can find somebody to help me bring the bed in. Is it really helping me to be going down that route? No. I was getting upset. I was getting angry. I was getting distracted. So I pick up my phone and I called them and I said, look, me neither. I don't want to see you on my doorstep. Don't bring your virus here. And we laughed. And they brought the bed downstairs and we brought it out. These are things that we can do to spare ourselves some goodness and some peace. There are so many negative experiences that cause problem, and it starts from the womb. Every experience we go through during pregnancy, it affects the children. I only saw it when I started doing mental health, because I could then recall how my son acted as a baby, even up to now. Rejection, sustained anger, sustained pain, criticism, fear, offense, rejection, in all its forms, they cause stress to the receiver. And we know that stress, as it is defined, places strain on our brain. We are wired for happiness. Remember, it's a gift of God, so it's good. So we are born and created and wired to be happy. The body has 60% of water, isn't it? Or 90%, I don't know. The pastor will help me. It's not just water we can drink. It's all these substances, all these hormones that are a part of the human body. All these things help. And stress, what it does, when it places strain, emotional strain on us, that it wastes, the stress wastes those chemicals. He drains them. So what modern medicine does is replenishing those wasted substances. Some of our patients call those tablets the happy tablet, my happy tablet. There is nothing. How can you replenish something that is, the container is already torn? It's like you've got a broken back bucket, all the water has passed through, and you keep on putting water in it without repairing the broken part of the bucket. So it is very important that we understand where we stand when it comes to stress and how we choose to deal with it. One thing that we can do is we can track our thoughts. When we are in front of a situation, we can track our thoughts. By doing what? By being still. One of the reasons why I wasn't sleeping is because I was dreading being in that moment of stillness. What do you do with your moment of stillness? This is the moment where you can reflect, that where you think. What you think about, you can analyze it against Philippians 4. Is it good? Is it profitable? Is it honorable? Is it going to bring me peace? If it's not, you have the choice to discard it. Sometimes it's difficult to discard. I had one example where I missed one email. That was 4 years ago, in 2016. I missed an email at work, and 6 months down the line, the patient killed himself. So they started investigating, and fear gripped me because they picked up that if that email had not been missed, maybe the outcome would have been different. It's always like that. So fear gripped me. I could imagine myself being shredded to pieces in front of the coroner for missing a vital information. I couldn't sleep. At that time, we were doing confessions, and I picked on the mercy of God. And I remembered this one. I went straight to my confession list and I picked it, and I said, I declare that I am covered by God's mercy. In any human error or mistake, God is the insurance cover of my life. His mercy holds me up when my foot slips, and I never fall into the hands of men, but always upon the goodness, or upon his goodness and his mercy. And that, the moment, every time the fear came, I will respond with that word. Every time I felt that, I will respond with that word until my mind was saturated with this word. Then the fear left me. And when we went for the meeting, they told me, oh, don't worry. We're not here to condemn you. Mistakes do happen. And that was it. If you don't feel like you want to, you are comfortable answering any questions, you can go. So this is what it is, to be able to decide what we want to dwell on. In the matter of mental health, there is nothing like, there is no mental illness in my family. It's everybody's business. We are all on the spectrum. Every human being is on the spectrum of mental ill health or mental health. So, what is a spectrum? When they break down light, they realize that it's a series of little lights all together. So, for the purpose of this, I'm going to use the traffic light, but not cut straight green, but it will be very insidious, from green to orange and from orange to red. We are all on that spectrum. Some people are in the green, some people are in the orangey yellow one, some people are in the amber, and some people are in the red. Some people will always stop at the limit of the amber, reddish amber, but they will never cross the line to red. So nobody knows that they have mental health issues, but actually they do. But because of the way they are wired, they are able to go unnoticed. Let's take this ruler. This is a ruler. It is very flexible. Some people are like this. You can bend them. You can bend. It will not break. They can take in, they have resilience. They have the ability to take in, and they can take, and because of their resilience, they will stay in reddish, no, orangey green, but they are in green anyway. But if I take this emery, it is not flexible. So a little pressure on it will break. So some people are like this because of the way they are, or maybe because of what they choose to focus on. If you apply a little bit pressure, they will break, which is why it is no use comparing your experience from the other people's experience, because you are not wired the same way. Well, I would like to stop here for today. I hope it was profitable to anybody. Now, if you have questions, I'm leaving that 15 minutes to answer specific questions.
Hi, Auntie Jay.
Hi, Pastor.
I want to ask you. So, as a mental health practitioner and a very experienced one, at that, would you say that? Because I heard you say that for the 2 years where you had that breakdown and the depression and everything, you were glad that you weren't just medicated, that you were able to, I believe what you were saying is you were able to go deep into God, into the Word, to be able to come out of it. Yes. In your experience with the different ranges of patients that you worked with over the past 10 years, would you say that, and I know you shared some really deep testimonies with me of, some of your patients that have, have gone really far, etc. Do you think that anybody can go through this process and come out healed and well on the other side? Or do you think some cases are just like impossible?
There is nothing impossible when it comes to God. If we take it from the God perspective, I would say there is nothing impossible. People do go through things that put them in a very, like, if you had a car and you drove that car continually, it will overheat. So some people are in the state of overheating, and as such, they need to be stopped. That engine needs to be turned off and rested, which is where medication comes in. But I would say that anybody who is willing to give himself to that, because there are the spectrum of diagnosis is also various. It's wide. It is wide. So it depends on what the diagnosis is, what triggered the illness, and how the person, what is the standing of the person to be able to agree to one thing or the other. Some of these patients don't believe in God. They don't believe that there is a situation, and they have embraced, some of them have embraced their condition. They identify themselves with the illness. It would be very difficult for such people to take. But for those who are open to the Word of God, who are open to believing that there is a higher power that is able to deliver them from where they are, it is possible, no matter how bad it is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So essentially, it is helping to bring someone to the place where they are willing to commit to the process.
Yes.
Whereby they can receive the help that they need.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Yeah, just one question for you, Auntie Jay.
Okay.
So, how do you know you are approaching breaking point as a person? I mean, how does an individual identify that?
They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. Because it's very subtle. It's very subtle. How did I find out that I was approaching a breaking point? I didn't know until it happened. I did not know. What we do, if somebody has gone through the crisis and has luckily come out, what we do is identifying the signs. We call them early warning signs when we do our assessment. So that we will list the signs. Sometimes you wouldn't realize that this is indicator that such thing is coming upon me. But once you've done it, you've gone through the process once, you are able to identify what triggered or what the telltales are, so that you can avoid going into crisis next time if you happen to go through difficult times that would trigger another crisis.
I think I have a question, Auntie Jay.
Okay.
You can hear me, Abby?
I can hear you.
Okay. In your experience, would you say that most of this, I mean, a high percentage of these patients are triggered by emotional, when I say emotional, I mean things like unforgiveness, things like, based on a hurt that has happened? Would you say that a high percentage of these mental illnesses stem out of a situation where either someone was maltreated, abused, and left a scar, and there's an element of unforgiveness there, or resentment towards the offender? Would you say that has played a great role in a number of the cases, based on your experience? I just wanted to find out.
Absolutely. It happens every day. And you would realize that every case is triggered by negative emotions.
Yeah.
Every person who goes through mental ill health is triggered by negative emotion, and they are wide ranged.
Okay.
So one of the things that is the deepest problem is we live in a society where things have to be, somebody has to be blamed.
Okay.
And the culprit has to be punished.
Okay.
So the treatment is not geared at helping the person recover from that pain and letting go so that he can rebuild himself up.
Got you.
Instead, they want to dig deep to find who's responsible for that. And then when they found it, what do? They might prosecute somebody who has been a victim of child abuse. How good is that too? What good does it do to the victim if it doesn't go through the process of forgiveness, letting go, and rewinding his mind and start focusing on the things that can help him come back to normal life?
Okay, excellent. Now, something that I want to ask you. So, in your experience, do you think Now this is, I mean, so do you think that the therapy itself, like the drug therapy and all that, what would you say has been the best, and your patients that you've seen that have recovered? Was it just the drug therapy, or did they have that pathway, like you said, that leads them to actually remove that resentment? Is that available in your practice? Are you allowed to delve into that area where you can go and say, okay, there's an unforgiveness issue there, rather than just loading them with medications? There's an unforgiveness issue here. We have to, like you said, we have to correct the bag rather than just pour drugs into the person. We have to heal that wound. Is there room in your practice to actually go deep into that and correct that unforgiveness rather than just pouring drugs to sort of placate the depression? And then, I don't know. I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, there isn't any. There is a sort of, when people talk about psychology. Psychology is to explore. I'm not a psychologist. I don't want to judge and expand on what I don't know, but psychology will certainly not do what that pastor did with me. And what it would have done is probably reliving, rehearsing, and reenacting everything that I went through, bring it out raw, and leave it to me to deal with. There is no avenue in this society that gives us the means to help individuals take that path. On a one-to-one, you can assess a patient if they are Christian. If they, you will know when you're one-to-one with somebody, you will know if there is an avenue, if there is a leeway for you to go on to encouraging them to let go, or explaining to them that, look, if you don't let go of this, you're not going to get anywhere. And they could understand. Obviously, we are banned from mentioning Jesus, or mentioning God, or calling things by their names. There is no way. And medication has its place. Medication has its place. When somebody goes in overdrive or overheats, they will need the medication to reset them or to stop the decline. But it doesn't mean that the problem that led to the crisis in the first place has been dealt with, which is why people do what we call revolving doors. They come out, we give them medication, the psychosis is numbed, the brain chemicals are reset mechanically and artificially, but the real way that they need, real brain to function the way, is not there anymore. So the moment that medication is stopped, you will see that the symptoms come back.
Okay, thank you. Now, the last question I'll ask is it's quite crucial. I think, so you're saying that basically unforgiveness and letting go is the cornerstone for a healthy mind. That's it. Okay, that's fine. That's all it gets.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I give an example. A hand that is already full cannot receive anything. If I have this in my hand, 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 what else can I take from, if somebody came to give me something? Unless I let God go, I wouldn't be able to take it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any more questions, please?
Mine is a comment, Auntie Jay. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing. I'm truly blessed, and I'm really grateful that we had this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've reached the end of our time. Be kind. Remember that the mind receives information and it processes them. The kinder you are, the honorable thing you tell people, things that they can dwell on to produce a powerful imaginations and thoughts. Be mindful the way you talk to your wives, the way you talk to your children, the way you talk to your friends, and let go of any negative experience you've had because it does not fit the criteria of Philippians 4. Thank you very much for your attention.